Hello everyone, my name is Holden Hardman. Thank you so much for joining us again for another video. Today I'm joined by my good friend Jeremy Branch from Movies Are Terrible. We have been behind a couple of episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Well, really it's me. I'm the one that's been behind. I just was not able to do it. Jeremy was able to, but I was not, so sorry. For this video, I know that everyone wants to see the finale, and if you want to get to our finale discussion, go here on the video. I want to do a quick recap of some of the other episodes just very, very briefly, because there were some things I wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to. A couple of moments that I really enjoyed from the previous episodes. There's that moment that Bucky is in Wakanda, and they're starting to do his sort of Winter Soldier triggering thing. I just thought that Sebastian Stan did an excellent job acting in that moment when it didn't work and he was finally free.
Yeah, that performance is something that carries through and ends up being one of the highlights. I mean, among several of the show, but Sebastian Stan really gets a chance to do some good stuff, and that was a great scene.
A moment that I was like, oh my freaking gosh, was when after John Walker took the serum, and then he killed the crap out of that dude after he killed Battlestar, which neither one of those things I saw coming. Killing Battlestar and then using Cap's shield as sort of this, using the symbol of Captain America to murder someone. Just that whole sequence was fantastic.
That in particular was the one scene that I really wanted to hear your reaction to. The one thing that's unfortunate about us not doing it week to week was just not knowing how you reacted to that particular moment, because I know how you feel about Cap, and what a striking and grim image for the end of the episode, him standing there with the spattered blood on the bottom of the shield.
In that moment, you see just John's total unworthiness of being Captain America. I'm going to reiterate something I read online. I don't know who said it, but it sounded good. Someone said he's a good soldier, but he's not a good man.
I'm still on the other side of I do not believe that John Walker is a bad man, but we'll continue to talk about that as we go along.
There was a conversation between Falcon and Isaiah, the whole conversation about they're never going to let a black man be Captain America. I don't really know how to delve into that, being a white man talking to another white man, but for what it's worth, it was impactful for me. It was moving for me.
Same, and the way that carries over into this finale is just chef's kiss.
This is just a small thing. I kind of like the little Bucky and Falcon's sister Sarah flirting a little bit. I kind of enjoyed that. That's all. When Falcon finally decides, I'm going to work for this, and they have that sort of training montage where he's practicing with the shield. Just another moment I liked. Nothing more deeper than that, really.
No, it's excellent. Seeing Sam come into his own as this character, another just great thing. Yeah, what a great way to kind of set that path in motion, and seeing him train with the shield. And then another moment from that particular episode, Holden, that I really loved is when Bucky wakes up and the kids are playing with the Cap shield.
Yeah.
And just kind of the realization of what that means to that generation. And I just thought that was really well done.
The idea that we have of who Captain America is, or what Captain America represents, and how that relates to Isaiah. Falcon being Captain America kind of helps represent all Americans, I guess, in that way. Because most superheroes that I know, that I grew up with, were white. I don't know what it's like to have that minority there. And somebody like Sam, who I think is great anyway, there's that level, I guess, that I may not consider, as much, to have somebody that I love, but also is more meaningful to somebody that is black, in a way that, in a connectivity that I just don't understand. So I think it's great. I think he's a wonderful character, one of Captain America's best friends. I think that he's the perfect choice.
I agree, and I do feel that was the purpose, essentially, of this show, was to be able to pass that mantle off to somebody that we come to know is worthy through his actions, through the fights that he does have, through the fights that he will not have. It's everything that he does proves exactly what you said, he is the right man for the job, because if you were looking at it in terms of a good soldier and a good man, Sam is definitely both of those things.
Oh, and my last point is that Cap knew this the whole time. He was the one that gave Sam the shield from the very beginning, and I think that speaks volume for both the original Captain America and his understanding of what America to him is.
Yes.
All right, episode 6, the finale. Let's talk about that. Falcon, the episode starts off with Falcon coming in with his new suit. I don't know if it's a copyright thing, but I so badly just want them to be like, Captain Falcon.
Somebody does actually say the word, and I got a big kick out of that as well. And I was kind of surprised, Holden, that they really do start the episode off with, bam, here comes Sam busting through the window dressed as Captain America. And I dig it. I really like the way that they are integrating both of the different power sets into each other. You know, the way that he uses his wings with the way that he's using the shield. There's one great scene where he kind of uses it to armor himself down in a similar way that Batman did in The Dark Knight, and also Spawn did in the Spawn movies. But yeah, I think the action choreography is really great, and this final episode is like 25 minutes straight of just some of the best action on television I've seen.
I don't know if it's me. I don't feel like they quite nailed the suit. I know they're trying to make it look like the comic book suit, but it's kind of actually the same problem Captain America had in the first Avengers movie, where it's kind of comic book accurate, but it doesn't quite look right. At least to me, it's like that needs like maybe the next series, once they kind of touch it up a little bit, it'll be a little bit better, but it looked just a little awkward to me.
Holden, I'm so glad that you jumped on the grenade with your helmet for me, because I wish I could insert the picture right here of me messaging a friend earlier and was like, I don't really like the suit, but it looks a lot like the Captain America one, and we know they evolve every movie, so it'll get tweaked, but like exactly the thing you just said, I co-sign that statement. I am kind of a stickler for design, though, because what's always drawn me to comic books was less what was in the ink of the written word and more just what was on the page visually. Like, that's always what I resonated with. And this is a very true to the comic book version of the costume, so I'm cool with it. Just not necessarily what I would have went with.
Yeah. I almost missed this. I was wondering how the heck did Red Wing come back, and then I realized it was the Wakandans that gave him the suit and Red Wing.
I like the way that they used Red Wing in the series this time. We did kind of observe that Red Wing had a bit of a personality early on in the season. They didn't develop that in a way that I found to be like really meaningful or pay off, but it was still cool to see the way, again, that he uses that technology and integrates it into his fighting style and his whole strategy. So I really like that part. I feel like the stuff with Sam really feels like it was the most vital to the storyline. However, I mentioned Sebastian Stan's performance a moment ago, and I feel like the way that they handle Bucky in this particular episode works really well. I liked the scene in the previous episode that he had with Baron Zemo, when Zemo was basically like, just go ahead and kill me, and Bucky pulls the trigger, but there's no ammunition in the gun. And to just see the growth of Bucky that carries through to this episode and what happens at the end, I really like the individual arcs that each of the characters were on kind of at the same time.
This is something I just kind of wanted your opinion on. It's sort of a side thing. To me, I watched Winter Soldier again about 2 weeks ago. He doesn't seem nearly as powerful or as strong as he was in like the Winter Soldier movie. I don't know if that's just me or if there's like a story canon reason for that, because he's not like so intense anymore. But I remember watching him just being so intense and so just like meticulous. And now, while still like he's kind of struggling to like open doors in some scenes, just like stuff like that, you know. So is that just me or what? What do you think?
No, they nerfed the shit out of him, dude. 100% made him so much weaker than he was, and maybe it's because he doesn't have the killer instinct anymore, right?
Yeah, maybe that's the reason.
You would think that the Wakandan arm would be an upgrade, so if anything, he should at least be on par with where he was at in Winter Soldier. However, there's a sliding scale for everybody's power sets within these movies. Sometimes Hulk is way stronger or less strong, just depending on what they need for the scene, so I don't have an issue with that, but I definitely felt the same thing at a couple of the moments throughout this series.
Yeah. When Battlestar died, and we got to see John Walker's whole issue with that, when he confronts Carly and she says a really bad phrase, I don't want to kill people that don't matter. Just, you could have worded that a little bit better, because obviously she meant matter to like the fight, but to him it was like don't matter like in general.
I have been sympathetic towards John Walker through the entirety of the series.
I know you
and
have.
Of course, I'm typically like that, though. I try to be like, because I've always heard that a good villain performance, the actor does not see themselves as a villain, and I think Marvel's done a really good job with keeping everything. Because a problem with the trope of superhero films back in the days, you've got your archetypal bad guy, your archetypal good guy, they go at each other. Well, ever since like Black Panther with Killmonger, Vulture in Homecoming, even Thanos, you've started to see these much more nuanced and gray characters, whether they be heroes and villains. And I know that John stepped across a line that he will not be able to like just come back from, because he killed that person in cold blood. That said, Sam has probably killed a good like 50 people, right?
You're right.
I'm not sure. I want to see the best in him, and obviously I felt like he wanted to do the right thing, but that shield is a lot heavier than just whatever the weight of it is, you know?
I want to have a moment to talk about Sharon a little bit later, but then I was thinking about her just shooting Carly in cold blood and everything being fine and actually being given an honor at the end of the episode. But we'll come back to all that, because that, like, what is the difference? You know, she wasn't attacking or doing anything.
Yep.
And Sharon just shot. Anyway, this is something that the filmmakers probably didn't do on purpose, but I saw that, and it's that pretentiousness of like, oh yes, wow, I wonder what that means. When John Walker brings in the other shield, I guess the one that he sort of just like made, the sound design was different. And to me, when he's like fighting with it, you hear just sort of like the hollow cheap metal of it, and you see like the dents being made into it, and it kind of made me feel like the shield, that new shield, kind of represented who he was as Captain America, the fake, the off-brand, the more hollow version.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think that's just me looking way too into it, but that's just kind of how I felt about that.
I appreciate it. I definitely heard the thinness of the shield as well in the sound design, and I think that you're probably not reaching too far to say that.
And as it would happen, right after I write that note, that's when we see John Walker have this moment of clarity, seeing the truck start to go forward, and as interesting characters go, you know, he had the choice to either go after Carly, who killed his friend Battlestar, or save the people in the truck, and he chose to save the people in the truck. So he's a guy that's a very complicated individual, which makes him a compelling character. He didn't win me over in terms of like, wow, what a great guy, but he made me like really appreciate that character more.
Yeah. It's not that I think that it's not so much that I love him or think that he's doing the right thing. It's just that every step that's pushed him towards that dark direction has been like, I feel like just a tough break, you know? Like if any of those things wouldn't have happened, I feel like he would have been a dramatically different character. But I guess what defines someone is the way that they react to tough situations. I think that the big thing that thematically that I keep kind of circling around is just this idea that Sam is a representation of a group of people that don't often see themselves as heroes. And obviously you mentioned it, it's true of Black Panther, but the idea at the beginning when Isaiah says they'll never accept a black Captain America, they'll never let that happen, and then to where it ended up, I mean, that's just such a great arc. And then the way that Isaiah is honored at the end of the series, like what a powerful thing, and just how much that means to people that aren't us, right? Like we see it and we appreciate it, and
we're like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and I think we at least have an awareness of socially as to what that means, but we can never feel how that means. And I think that that's a really cool thing. I found that the 10-minute monologue at the end, it's very difficult to try to summarize systemic racism in 10 minutes, but I also have to understand that this show is meant for people of all ages, and these are very important universal truths that Sam was saying at the end. I have to keep in perspective that there's somebody that's never heard those things before, or never heard those things said by a black man on television. So props to the filmmakers for handling something so topical. And who could have ever thought, and I don't want to sound insensitive or step out of turn, but with what happened this week in particular, I find that this message is even more resonant and even more powerful than it would be outside of that context.
Another thing that Isaiah said that kind of gave Sam a difficult choice. Not only does he say America will never accept a black Captain America, but he says a black man would be foolish to even do it if they did.
Yeah. So
they cut that out of like the recap, but that puts Sam in this kind of awkward position. Am I betraying black people by doing that? Am I just going to be kind of like in the first Captain America where Captain America draws himself on like a little tricycle, like for like a show?
Yes.
You know, so not only is it accepting him as Captain America, but also getting over the bitterness that Isaiah has for Captain America and for the system that correctly ruined his life. You know, so Sam represents moving forward for everybody, which is great.
For Sam to be able to take on this mantle, not only does he just kind of like have to step into the role of Captain America or represent the future, he has to let go of the past. And like he says, you know, I see people judging me, looking at me with their judging faces, and even now I feel that. And it's like, that's something that he's always going to have to confront and deal with and move ahead despite all of that. And in a way, that's like, you're not even starting at ground level. You're almost starting at a deficit. So it takes more character and more resolve to be able to step into that role as him.
You mentioned, I put Falcon's final speech just in general. We've touched on it a little bit. It was great. It was fantastic. Bucky, I focus so much on Falcon as the new Captain America and all that stuff. But as you mentioned before, kind of the individual arcs, Bucky not confronting, but making the horribly difficult decision to provide closure to that to the old man we saw in the very first episode, that he killed his son. You know, it's so difficult, but he could give him that.
Yeah, I feel like Sebastian Stan was the standout performance of the series. Now, take from that what you will. I just feel like his acting, he had the most to do and kind of the most good intimate moments as a character. So I really liked what he did in this. You
mentioned briefly about that monument for Isaiah Bradley in the Captain America Museum, and how great that is. And that's something that we take for granted as far as history. We don't know about these black people that have contributed so much to society. One that I learned from watching the documentary High Score was Jerry Lawson, a black engineer who made video game cartridges that revolutionized gaming. We would not have modern gaming the way it is without him. And I only learned about him like 2 years ago. The idea of there being a Isaiah Bradley or these other powerful contributors throughout history that we don't learn about. And I think there's kind of this tendency to think that it might be hyperbolic to say that, but it's really not, because we're seeing more and more examples of black creators or black influencers throughout history that I had no idea. And
yes.
I can only imagine if it was the other way around and people that represented me had been stifled by history. I mean, it's not theoretical. We're seeing more and more of that. So I love that I learned about Jerry Lawson, because I looked into his life, and what a cool dude to give Isaiah Bradley his display for what he did and the injustice he faced. Was hopefully good closure for the character. But I can only imagine for a black person watching that, how impactful that would have been for them.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing, isn't it? It's like it serves the character and it means a lot to him, but then there's this symbolic thing that it's doing in a much larger context, especially when it comes to pop culture and things like that. But I'm glad you brought that up, Holden, because like a lot of people talk about how Edison didn't actually invent the light bulb. He did, but it was Lewis Latimer that ended up making it so much more convenient and revolutionizing it. Nobody really knew about the Oklahoma Massacre, the Tulsa Massacres prior to when the Watchmen series came out.
Yes, that's another one. I learned about that from that too. What a weird thing, what a weird way to learn about that.
Seriously, to think that it was just swept under the rug for so long. And then also, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Tuskegee syphilis experiments, but they tie very specifically into what Isaiah is going through.
They tricked people into thinking they were injecting them so they could see how it would affect a person long term that wasn't cured.
Yeah, they were giving people placebo and saying they were curing them or treating them with a new treatment, and they did it on African Americans because they could justify it in their sick heads. So it's interesting, and yes, I do feel like there is a calculated movement lately to bring those cultures to light, and I think that it's great. I think it's years too late, but better years too late than never at all. So it's just great to see it happening.
Getting aside from like the political tension, I guess, that we might be going into there now, I got a quick question about what the heck is going on with Sharon Carter? Just in general, I have no clue. Like, she killed somebody. She seems like she's working for, I don't know who she's working for, but it seems really shady. What's going on, man? I was not following it. I have no clue.
She's a bad guy now, apparently. She's the power broker. I know that, and that's all I know.
No.
So she's off scot-free. She's definitely a criminal. Do you think she's going to show up in like Shang-Chi or something?
I was so surprised that she's had such a character shift. One other thing, it seemed as though Walker, after his sort of little redemption moment with the truck, was just sort of there. And then he comes out as U.S. Agent. I don't know if that's his superhero name or if it's Agent or what's going on with him. I'm guessing, obviously, there's going to be more with him and more significance with his role later, because he is a super soldier now, theoretically just as strong as or stronger than the original Captain America. We'll see. I just thought that was weird that they just sort of finished and was like, okay, and then is like just participating at the end. Doesn't really say much.
He's just kind of jogging around behind Bucky for a little bit, looking around the room like, which way are we going? And then he escapes really any sort of consequence for what had happened there publicly. I mean, he was stripped of the title of Captain America, but he didn't seem to be under arrest or anything. But Holden, the character U.S. agent is actually a character named John Walker in the comic books, who is a roguish version of Captain America. He's more the Black Ops, down and dirty version of the character.
My last note is Zemo gets arrested by the Wakandans in one of the earlier episodes, but then he's at the Raft. Was that the Raft prison? Why is he there? Why is he not in like a Wakandan cell?
I thought what you said. I thought he was going to Wakanda, and I was surprised to see him show up there.
Yeah, I must have missed something, but I was just surprised by that.
I really liked Daniel Bruhl this time around.
Yes, he's always great.
He really came into his own as being more than just the menacing kind of emo villain that he was in Civil War. Yeah, and I think that Marvel has done a very good job of making sure each of the shows stands on its own. They're very difficult to compare. If I were going to make a very broad critique, I would say WandaVision was very intriguing and front-loaded, where Falcon and Winter Soldier kind of seemed to take a minute to get going and the momentum to build. So I feel like it was very backloaded, and I like the beginning of WandaVision and the end of Winter Soldier both a whole lot, and it makes it hard to say which I prefer or anything like that.
Now we've seen the completion of 2 different Disney Plus series with the Marvel properties, 2 very different experiences. We usually think of Marvel as being kind of more silly and jokey and fun, and there really wasn't a whole lot of that in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all, but it definitely is different. They broke formula straight up. And I do think it took a little bit to kind of get some steam going. I think it worked. I really, really enjoyed it. I don't think it's like the holy cow, the top dog or anything. I think there was some formulaic stuff in there just in terms of like storytelling. I think exploring the psychology of Bucky and some of our characters, the racial stuff, which makes absolute sense for a series like this. It's relevant in our culture now, so I think it's important to put a light on it and at least talk about it, which this does. Whereas like WandaVision is much more like of a silly, kind of the classic goes back and forth between being funny and also kind of these serious moments. 2 very different experiences, both very good. Yeah,
I enjoyed talking about both of them with you, and it looks like we've got Loki coming before too long, and another one. I
What If?
I remember what it is, right? What If is going to be interesting. I'm very curious about a lot of these. So hopefully the conversations will continue, but it's always a pleasure.
Yes. Let us know what you thought in the comments below, what you thought of some of our opinions, if you agreed or disagree, and why, or why not. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Helps the channel out a lot. Make sure to check out Jeremy's channel, Movies Are Terrible. There will be a link in the description below. He does a lot of movie discussions, a lot of really great stuff over there. Subscribe if you want to see more fun content like this. Consider joining my Patreon to get early access to select videos. As always, on behalf of me and Jeremy, we appreciate you watching. We'll catch you in the next video. Take care.